Hey guys, welcome to my new show series. I'm going to be calling this The Good, the Bad, and the Eh. As you can probably tell from the title of this video and the thumbnail. The thumbnail is what happens when you have an idea and you just go with it without thinking it through. I originally planned on having the good, the bad, the eh on there and be like, oh, that's cool. I'll have blue represent good, red represent bad, and purple represent eh. And it's kind of like a mixture of the two. Well, as you can see from the thumbnail, I didn't think it through that the eh should have to be in the middle, so whatever. In this series, I will be highlighting certain moments from the show. So instead of just doing a review of each match as it goes on, I'm going to throw these in here every now and then to kind of keep things fresh and not keep things stale. These should be shorter than my reviews since I'm not going to be talking in length about every single match. This one might be a little longer because I have to explain everything, but these ones should be shorter. So I'll try to do a good balance on here for the people who really like my long reviews where I just babble on about everything. And then for the people who just kind of want, you know, the main points, the exclamation points of the show. So what does the good, the bad, and the eh mean? Well, the good and the bad are pretty obvious. What I thought were some really good points to point out, and then what I thought were really bad points to point out. Now, the eh is the only thing that really needs an explanation. And I'm probably the only person who says eh instead of meh. I don't know, it's just something I always said. But to me, eh is going to be anything that is both a mixture of good and bad, that doesn't really go towards one side, or anything that doesn't really fit into good or bad at all. Something that I wanted to point out, but doesn't really impact the show in an overly positive or negative way. So let's get to it, and I'm going to snap my fingers and then the layout will pop up on the screen. Hopefully I can get this to work. Remember, I'm using all new image software and video editing software, so please forgive me for any kind of snafus for the first couple videos. Alright. Cool. I bet it looks like crap, but let's do this. I'm starting with a bad, unfortunately, and because I'm talking about the live stream of the New York show, and not just the show itself, a lot of bad points come from the actual stream itself. If you guys watched it live with me at the time, then you should know. The first bad is going to be the quality and production of the actual stream itself, of just the video aspect of it. It was super choppy and laggy in places, and not too great a quality. I'm not going to blame them for only using 720, but it was very, very choppy and laggy. Apparently, other people in the chat had it even worse than me because a lot of the times they were complaining about things that I weren't seeing. But I definitely saw it on my second watch through because I watched it through again just to kind of refresh my memory while making this video. Wrestling is kind of nauseating when it's not smooth. It can be a poor quality. I'm not saying everything has to be 1080, 4K, whatever. But what it should be is smooth. And the best comparison is kind of like video games. Everyone hates, the 30 frames per second or whatever, but I actually don't mind it as long as it stays 30 frames per second the whole time and it doesn't drop. When you start dropping frame rates and stuff like that, it makes it look bad, and that's a really detriment to wrestling because wrestling's action is very, fast-paced sometimes, and it can kind of make you sick and nauseous watching it when it's, like so choppy and unfluid. This was made even more evident since I don't believe Stardom was in control of the cameras this time, so the cutting and video placement of each shot followed a more WWE central style where there was a lot of cutting during the impacts and a lot of back and forth between the cameras, which isn't needed for the Stardom series because these girls know how to make it look good, even if you keep the camera straight on them. Next is unfortunately going to be another bad. These are going to be in order of when they apply to the stream, so there could be a lot of bads in a row and a lot of goods in a row. And, or just back and forth. I'm not purposely putting like a bunch of bads together or a bunch of goods together. It's just whichever applies first. And this next bad point is the audio. Now, I could technically lump that in with the video quality, but I feel like it's a whole nother beast and should be a whole nother point. Now, the audio in this, while it didn't affect me nearly as much as some other people in the chat, apparently there was a lot of cutting out of audio, left, right. I guess that would look right to you guys, but for me, left, right. It was like switching back and forth sometimes. Sometimes they couldn't hear the right audio. Sometimes they couldn't hear the left audio. It was very inconsistent. And it was motorcycles. And it was pretty hard to kind of focus sometimes when for one period of time, let's say the slams on the mat were the loudest thing. And then all of a sudden the audio does this like shift. And all of a sudden the commentators are really loud and you can't really hear anything in the ring. And it was just kind of like back and forth, back and forth. When I first watched it, I watched it on my laptop, so I didn't really notice it too much, even though my laptop does have left-right audio. But when I rewatched it with my dad, because he couldn't watch it live, I hooked it up to the TV from my laptop, and it was much more noticeable through the TV. It was, I don't know why, but it just was. And I gotta say, it was pretty atrocious. So that was definitely another bad. Next is going to be a good. And this one goes to 4 people. Yurie, Mayu, Tam, and Momo for their very amazing attempts at speaking English. I really applaud them for it. Speaking another language, especially under that pressure live audience like that, is never easy. And I think they did a very wonderful job, every single one of them. And I did not know this, but Yurie has literally the cutest voice in all of history. If you haven't watched the show yet, watch her speaking English in the beginning because it is adorable. Now, let's add in the third spot that is looking a little bare, an point. This is going to go to the missing people from the show, primarily just Starlight Kid and Izumi. Unfortunately, because they are underage, I don't believe they were able to come. And even if they weren't, they might have not been a part of it. It kind of seemed like they just wanted the core people there, the most known people, to put on a good show. Now, it would have been really great to have Starlight Kid and Izumi there and have them wow the American audience, but unfortunately, they couldn't come. And that's why it's in an eh. I don't blame Stardom for not bringing them. It's totally understandable. I don't feel like it hurt the show to not have them there, even though I would have liked them to have them there, and I think it would have made it a better show. It just didn't hurt it to not have them there. So, another bad, and because pretty much every single bad had to do with the actual stream and or production of the company of putting on the venue, it's all happening right in the beginning. The bottom rope was a disgrace. Now, if you don't know this, before Stardom show even started, apparently the bottom rope broke and they had to redo it. They had to fix it. And apparently, I didn't hear this until like the next day or the day after, but apparently one of the spots where one of the screw for the springs or whatever it was supposed to be in was stripped when it got broken. So they couldn't actually tighten it any more than it was. But if you watch the footage and if you look at the video or the picture I have up here, it is bad. It is not only very aesthetically unpleasing, it is very dangerous. A lot of Stardom girls have a move and or sequence that involves the bottom rope. I mean, there's not a single one that doesn't have a move where their opponent's like leaning on the bottom rope in some way. And there's even a part where one of the people actually almost fell out of the ring. I believe it was during the first match. It kind of scared me when I first watched it. It was absolute garbage. If I was Rossi, I'd be kind of ticked with how his show was handled by that company. Next is a good, and oh boy is it a good I am really happy about. John won. What? Now, it's gotten to the point where saying John won is actually a surprise and not something that you would expect. And this not only is a John win, it is a Jungle win, ending her losing streak. I believe it was going on like 3 or 4 shows at this point that she had lost. It wasn't her physically losing, but her team that she was on had been losing every single show. And the majority of these shows, John has been losing. And it is just really refreshing to see them win because I thought they were going to lose. I gotta be honest, I thought Rossi had brought them along and put them against foreigners to have them lose, to not make it seem like, you know, every Stardom person won when they were facing a foreigner. But I was pleasantly surprised, and Jungle and Natsuko got the win that they so deserve, and they started off the show, so that's a plus as well. Another bad for this one, unfortunately, and is the entire reason I wanted to make this video. I tweeted on Twitter. I was trying to be a little bit vague so I didn't give it away, but there is a single sentence that I wanted to say when doing this. So, in this show, the ring is much smaller than what the Stardom girls are used to. Now, I didn't really notice it until after the John match. That's why this is so far into the video. And I'm going to put on screen here how I deciphered how much smaller this ring is. So, using a unit of Jungle, you guys don't realize how excited I was to say that sentence. I know it's stupid, and I'm a complete dork for getting so excited about it, but a unit of Jungle. Anyway, so a unit of Jungle. The New York ring was 3 1/13 jungles. And comparing that to the ring they use at Carrick Hall, using another unit of Jungle. I'm sorry. I don't usually get the giggles like this. I don't know why this is so funny to me. So as you can see in the second picture, in comparison, the ring that they usually use at Carrick Hall is much larger. It is 4 1/8 jungles in comparison, giving it almost an entire 5 feet of length. Oh my god, I don't even know if I can use this part now. Let's go to the next thing. Next, Hannah's back. And this is a good point, obviously, because Hannah has been just absolutely amazing ever since she, what I'm assuming is took constructive criticism on her new persona and changed it to become entertaining again. She is an absolute blast. She dyed her hair. She's wearing a new outfit. I'm not a big fan of the color. As you guys know, I don't like green, but all the more power to her. If that's what she wants to wear, that's what she wants to wear. It didn't stop her from being super entertaining. She's a good wrestler. I'm super happy she's back, and I'm glad she's out of the hospital. So, now, let's talk about the commentary. And a lot of you are going to expect me to put this in the bad, but honestly, I'm putting this in the category. And here's the reason why. It had both elements of good and bad in it. Now, the bad is obviously the main dude. He was trying a little too hard to be funny at certain times, which didn't really bother me. I actually kind of thought the whole MySpace thing was kind of funny. I can understand why people would think it's cringy or stupid, but whatever. And his mess-ups, he did mess up in 2 very noticeable spots. The calling Momo's finisher the Peach Sunset instead of the Peach Sunrise. And then the other one was when Konami was working on someone's leg over the rope. He said that was surely going to help the Triangle Lancer. As you all know, the opponent's leg has nothing to do with the Triangle Lancer, so. Now, the good aspects of it were, I found that their play-by-plays, like calling out the names of the moves and stuff like that, were very cool and interesting. I don't usually watch any promotions that actually have commentary, or at least commentary that's in English. So it is nice to hear the names of moves, because it's kind of hard to find the names of wrestling moves sometimes. And the other aspect is they dropped some really cool info and facts on us, like the fact that the high-speed belt was designed by Asuka. I mean, in the live chat, literally, like, right after that was said, like 10 people right in a row were like, whoa, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. You know, it's just really cool to see things like that. And I feel like the good parts of it definitely outweighed the bad. Now, the one part I'm not really entirely sure on is the name pronunciations for some of the people. They had this Asian dude there who was apparently an announcer for, like, wrestling really long ago, and he knows his stuff. He lived in, like, he's Japanese. But the thing I don't understand is I am like 95% sure Momo's last name is pronounced Watanabe. Momo Watanabe. That's how Yurie says it. Like, that's how I've heard every person say it. But they kept calling it Watanabe. Now, this dude is Japanese. So, like, who's right? Him or Yurie? You know, like, and then every other person I've ever heard say it. Is it just a dialect thing? Is that just a dialect, like a way to say it, like they're both correct? Because technically the way you say both follow the Japanese like language structure with how you pronounce the A's and the E's and all that. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, this is getting an eh for me. It's not bad or good. Ding one more for the good. And this one was something that I feel like really split the fans, because I saw some comments about, I believe while it happened, or it was either while it happened or afterwards, that some people didn't like it. And after the match, Hannah's match, Hannah won, but they played the Queen's Quest theme. Now, this happens in wrestling, it's a mess up, but how Hannah reacted was perfect for her character. She got up, she started throwing a fissy hit, she was like verbally yelling at like the Rossi area, like where all the main people are, and like demanding them to play her song instead. And then she just acted like a complete, oh god, sometimes it's really hard to describe Hannah's activities while keeping it clean. I'm sure you understand what I wanted to say from that. Now, I thought this was a good thing because it perfectly fit Hannah's character. It was really entertaining, and it shows how good Hannah is at reacting to a situation. I mean, unless that was planned, and I seriously doubt that it was planned based on the actual quality of the production of the show, unless it was planned, Hannah reacted perfectly to this. She was like a natural. It didn't seem like she was making it up. It felt like something that just came natural to her, and that is really great. It just goes to show you how much of a star Hannah is and potential that she has. So that is definitely a good for me. Another return and another good point. Dust. Now, as you guys know, or might know, I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but I always really liked Dust. I felt like she was one of the foreigners that really clicked with the Joshi and Stardom style right away, instead of finally getting to it right towards the end of their tour. Right away, she was perfect, and I enjoyed every match that she was a part of when she first came. Now, this technically might not be considered a return since they're in America, where she's from, but I'm calling it a return because she's in a Stardom production again. Now, this would be really cool, but I would really love to have Dust become kind of a regular, like BA or Viper. Someone who, comes in every now and then, and I would love for her to join Queen's Quest, and then she could be the American part of the Queen's Quest worldwide. I mean, you have Queen's Quest Japan, you have Queen's Quest UK now. How about a Queen's Quest USA? I think that would be really cool. I mean, they have the shirts for it now. All right, back to the bad, and this one was really bad. You guys, if you guys watched it or have heard about it, you probably already know. The end of Momo versus Utami got cut out. The stream failed, and we didn't get to see like the last third of their match. And then we also didn't get to see Orotai's entrance. Now this ticked off a lot of people, myself included. This was the match everyone was looking forward to, Momo versus Utami. It was the first time they ever met. It was a singles match. It was for a belt. It was super important. And the stream dropped the ball. It was really, really annoying. And even worse, the video on demand that they had up afterwards for the next day had it cut out as well. So, I mean, I had to find out who won from someone in the chat who was apparently at the event or something like that. It was ridiculous. Luckily, as of now, that the video on demand is updated and there's actually the part that was cut out is now in there. And so you can go and watch the entire show if you want. It's just, at the time, man, Jeez, way to drop the ball. Another good point is during the match, Momo tried to do her Peach Sunrise, and Utami Hayashishita reversed it. Now, this isn't anything to really get all excited about, but it's the way she reversed it that really caught my attention. Usually when people reverse this move, they kind of break out of it or something like that. But here, she did it in a very weird, cool way, in my opinion. As Momo went to go kick her leg, she kind of like wrapped her arm around the leg and caught it. And I think that's just a really cool way to counter it, because it kind of comes with the fact that she knows Momo. This is kind of like a way to counter it as someone who knows how Momo thinks. And I think that really added to the story, and I kind of got super excited about that when it happened. Chalk up another good point as Momo retained. And as you know, Momo is my favorite Stardom wrestler, so her winning has made me very happy, and that is why it's at a good point. I think it's pretty safe to say that her white belt is classified as legendary at this point. Her white belt reign, I should say. Bad point again. And unfortunately, this one is a little annoying. Not annoying, disappointing. It surprised me as well. Kagetsu messed up her 450 splash. It's just crazy, because as I was watching it, I saw her mess it up, and I was like, I can't for the life of me think of a time where she didn't hit it perfectly. She pretty much hits it perfectly every single time, and she's been there for like over a year signed or something like that. So it's just crazy to me. I mean, she really missed too. Like, she kneed Tam in the chest area, like right here, and like her whole body was past Tam. It was like a blatant miss, and I think a lot of that probably has to do with the ring size. I noticed a lot of miscalculations and mistiming in this show, where the girls seem to not know how to adjust for the small space. Bad point +1. Let's talk about the ref counts. There were a lot of 3s that were apparently supposed to be 2s. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, there were many times, where I looked at it, I'm like, that was obviously a 3. I don't know if it was the refs not being used to the Japanese style of hesitating on the 3, or the girls not being used to the American 1, 2, 3, but there were many times where the ref pretty much stopped and the girl was clearly still pinned. It was pretty bad. So yeah, that's why it's bad. This video and the show itself is going to be ending on an point. And the reason for that is the last two people in the last match. It was an elimination match between Odotai and Stars. And the last two people were Mayu Iwatani and Jamie Hayter. Now, nothing against Jamie. I really like her. I think she's great. I'm super happy she's, in Odotai and all that. But is that really what you want to close your show on? Your New York show? Mayu versus Jamie? I mean, what? I understand that they probably wanted the show to end on a pin, and they couldn't have Mayu pinning Kagetsu, and then Martina, that's just as bad. So the only one left was Miyagi, and honestly, I think that would have been good. I mean, Miyagi has just been shown to be less than Momo in terms of overall strength with her loss against her, and Mayu is currently in the top 4 of the promotion. So I don't feel like it would have hurt Miyagi to be pinned by Mayu. That's just my thought. That's why it's getting an M, because it didn't really hurt the show, in my opinion, but it didn't really help it either. The show rounds out with 7 good, 7 bad, and 3 eh. Now remember, while this may make the show look bad, a lot of the bads came from the production of the stream itself, and remember, not all of these are weighted. I mean, there were some bads on there that were almost barely bads, and had way less of an impact on the show than, say, some good. You know, like, some of the goods were so good that they just completely wipe out the bad. Like, this isn't meant to be like a score video where it's like, oh, it got more bads than good, so it must have been a bad show. It's like, no, there was just more individual bad things I wanted to point out than good. That doesn't mean the show was bad, you know. Please don't take these as a way to review the show. It's not a review. It is a highlight video, in a way. I'm highlighting things and giving them a category. Good, bad, eh. So, thank you for watching. I hope you like the new video series. I plan on doing this a lot if it's positively received. And honestly, I just really wanted to say Unit of Jungle. Bye.